Welcome to the One Deal Millionaire podcast, where we don't just bounce properties, we flip mindsets. I'm JD Allen, Marine Corps veteran, engineering leader, and your multifamily investment mentor. If you're stuck chasing small gains, we're here to change the game. Each week, we dive into strategies to bounce your way to your first million. No fluff, no hype, just real talk, real deals, and real momentum. You want to know the truth? $1 million payday almost slipped through my fingers. Not because of spreadsheets, not because of interest rates, but because one moment, one decision sitting at the closing table. Picture this with me. A 50-unit property. I've spent months negotiating, underwriting, analyzing. The finish line was right there. Pens on the table, documents ready to sign. And then everything changed. For months, I had poured myself into this deal. Late nights breaking down numbers, phone calls with brokers, and endless analysis. I had convinced the bank, I had lined up investors, I had convinced myself this was the deal that would change everything. Walking into that closing room, I thought I was there to sign paperwork. I thought it was done. But real estate doesn't just test your numbers, it tests your nerve, and it tests your integrity. The attorney slid those papers across the table, and I reached for the pen. That's when the seller spoke up. We need more money. And then they dropped the bomb. They had already spent all of their tenant security deposits, every last dollar. Now think about that. 50 families, renters who trusted them with their hard-earned money, and it was gone, evaporated. And now, at the table, they wanted me to cover it. This wasn't just bad business, that was a giant problem. And in this moment, my heart sank. I thought, what do I do? If I walk, I lose months of work. But if I stay, I'm covering for their mess. I had two choices, fold or fight. So I steadied myself. I remembered the numbers. I remembered the value of the deal. And I looked across the table and said the word that changed everything. No. We already have a deal. I won't budge, and I'm not covering something you broke. In that moment, it wasn't just about money. It was about principle. Because if I caved once, I'd cave forever. And in negotiations, discipline beats desperation. Every single time. He shoved his chair back, stood up, and then said, I'm not signing. He stormed out the door. He stormed out of the room. The silence was heavy. Everyone turned to me. Attorneys, brokers, my agent. They were waiting for me to break, to say, okay, fine, I'll cover it. But I didn't. I pushed my chair back, I stood up, and I started walking towards the door. Now inside I was terrified. My heart was racing, my mind was screaming, but then I remembered where I came from. I was a Marine, and Marines don't fold under pressure. We're trained to hold the line when everything inside of us says to run. And that's exactly what I did. I held the line. I refused to cave. And just as I reached for the door, I heard it. Wait. Set back down. The room shifted. The leverage flipped. The sellers realized I wasn't bluffing. They realized I wasn't going to cover for them. And so I sat back down. But this time, it was on my terms. They signed a deal exactly as agreed. 18 months later, I walked away from that property with over $1 million in profit. $1 million! That almost slipped away because someone else tried to dump their problems on me. The lesson? You don't just buy properties, you buy the problems that come with them. And you have to decide, are those problems yours to solve, or are you being forced into something that violates your principles? Deals aren't just about math, they're about mindset. And sometimes the fortune is already in the room, but only if you have the courage to stand your ground. So here's my challenge to you. The next time you're tested at the closing table, in a negotiation, or even in life, remember this story. Remember, courage pays, conviction pays, standing your ground pays, because the deal of your life might not be won on paper. It might be won in that one moment when you're tempted to fold, but you choose to stand. That's how you protect yourself. That's how you build wealth, and that's how you build character. And sometimes that's how you make $1 million. Because at the end of the day, Marines don't fold under pressure, and neither should you. That's it for today's episode of the One Deal Millionaire podcast. If you got value from this, share it with a friend who's ready to stop playing small. And remember, wealth isn't built by watching, it's built by moving. So take what you learned, apply it, and keep the velocity of money working in your favor. Subscribe, leave a review, and stay in the loop at thebouncemethod.com. And until next time, keep bouncing forward.